Hello everyone, welcome back to another Age of Empires 4 commentary. I am Beyond, and today we have an amazing 2v2 game for you, and we also have a special guest. We have TenFourTim. Welcome, Tim. How's it going?
It's going well. Yes, guys, Beyond has fed me after midnight, so I am rabid for some 2v2 content. Beyond, who we got playing today?
Today we have Crackety is here, rocking the teal and his famous China. Across the way, his teammate playing as the French is Rio with the old golden boat in the yellow, a very classic French setup. Across the way, we have Kowalski in the blue as the Rus. And then we have Jigglypuff62, aka just Jigglypuff, in the green playing as the French. Now, obviously, Crackety's here is a caster / pro player, so it's going to be in for a good one. But across the way, Tim, you might know these players a little bit better than I do, but we have one of the best 2v2s probably in the game at the current moment.
Yeah, I do know both of these players pretty well. Jigglypuff does hone in on the French very much so. He has been part of the Devil's Clan for quite some time. One of the best French team game players that really is around the block. There's a current meme going that he has super mega pro build orders, and I think we might see one today. His teammate Kowski, or his full name is Goat Kowski, is actually the full name for him, playing as the Rus. He plays a litany of different civs, but Rus obviously very good in not only a 1v1 situation, but 2v2s as well.
Absolutely. So I'm assuming we're going to see some turtling play out of the Chinese player over here from Crackety. Probably, protect the star player, if you will. A little bit of that classic when you have the sports team, the best player, just kind of get them to where they need to be, and they should be in an okay spot. But interesting to see if we can see that these two French players on either side get a little bit of harass. And honestly, I hope we see a unique build, because I would love a good thumbnail and title out of these two.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, I hyped up the build order a little bit. It's just going to be School of Cavalry with 4 villagers, as we're watching that go over. But let's talk about the fourth player that we didn't talk about yet, Rio. I'm not really sure, and I'm not too familiar with him. Apparently, from what Beyond has told me, more in the high diamond, low conk kind of player. And when you're playing as the French, especially in a 2v2 setting, you end up having a bullseye on your town center and just on your civilization as a whole. So he might be subjected to some feudal aggression by his French opposite teammate.
Yeah, and we can already see the Kremlin coming out, and I would not be surprised if they try to start to hone in on there. Obviously, China has the Barbican of the Sun that provides a little bit of safety. Speaking of, there it is in the backhand side. So definitely going to be playing on the more defensive side for Crackety is here. But yeah, I mean, they're pretty susceptible to lots and lots of raids, especially because they invest so much into their offensive. Their defense sometimes does struggle, and you don't usually see an early barracks out of a French player. So this gold line can get pretty raided pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, the French, we talk about aggression, right? Especially in that mid-feudal age area. But they're incredibly susceptible kind of at this part of the game, because you notice some Mongol tower rushes are very good against the French, obviously, because they happen in this 3 to 4 minute range. For Jigglypuff and Kowski, once we get to the School of Cavalry getting built, and Jiggly with that super mega OP build order at about 4 minutes, 4 seconds, going to be able to queue up that knight and head over there. Where's that waypoint going, Beyond?
Well, if we follow it all the way along, all the way on over is right to the gold of the opposing French player. The other French player has not selected a waypoint, just going to pop out and see what kind of happens, which we love it. We love to live by the seat of our pants, so I respect that for Rio, just, living in the moment instead of having a predisposition plan for his night.
Absolutely. I mean, why plan to put out fires when you got a fire right on your doorstep? And that Royal Knight will be hitting the battlefield for Jigglypuff, and it takes probably, just because it's a 2v2 map, might take about 20-25 seconds to get there, but it's super important for the French because it matters where you're taking fights. For Rio, if he takes it near his gold, he doesn't have much way to back up. Hopefully, now that Rio is going towards the French side as well, they're probably going to meet in the middle where the sacred side is.
I would absolutely love a co-charge, or I think it's going to be like 2 ships passing in the night. Yep. That's exactly what it was. Not even a hesitation in either of them to even consider a charge on the ladder. It's more just we understand that you're going to go towards my guy and you're going to go towards them. We have a tower coming out for Ryo to try to prevent a little bit of damage. And Jigglypuff is confident in his microing abilities, so just doesn't even need that. And just going to be dipping quite quickly. But we might be seeing a charge onto this broadside of this villager, and that's going to be one going down already, and a second one is already starting to lose its health, and that is a great play there by Jigglypuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's one villager, but when you're playing with the French, it makes all the difference. That Royal Knight only at about maybe 10 to 15 health for Ryo, trying to get aggressive on that other side. Not really sure if he took down a villager, but those gold villagers that were over there for Jigglypuff, very, very safe. And look at where Jigglypuff puts his scout near that front gold mine. If you take a look, the scout is basically right in front of that gold mine. Now it's starting to move out on the eastern side, but because of that stealth force, he needed a scout there to make sure he could see some knights, and he did a good job of doing that.
And Jigglypuff actually takes down another knight, so has a villager kill and a knight kill to his name. That is probably best case scenario if you are the French player facing another French player, is you do lots of damage, you get them off of their gold, you make them invest in extra resources into defense, like this keep over here, and you still come out ahead with the trade. So Jigglypuff showing early on why he might be, like you said, might be one of the best 2v2 French players in the game right now.
And you got to think about, too, what does this mean for his teammate? Because Jigglypuff is putting a little bit of aggression on. If you take a look at Kowski, second town center up at about the 645-ish mark, so starting to crank out villagers 2 at a time. It is nice, though, that Jigglypuff and Ryo are having this sparring match, or this joust, if you will, because there's knights on either side, because Crackety playing as the Chinese, it looks like he has Song Dynasty completed, and he does, so he's going to be able to boom and hopefully provide some assistance at some point with a couple archery ranges, but he's going to be able to gather some stone, get a second town center pretty uncontested.
Yeah, I think Cracker's going to be like, you know what, if you can just survive to the 15-minute mark, I'll hit you up when I get there, but in the meantime, I'm just going to hang out over here, play a little Civ City simulator over here, and just get everything done. We do see 2 archery ranges coming out quite early for Crackety and some more knight play over here, but it is 2 to 5 in the knight category on this, at least on this raid. So Jigglypuff is sitting in the driver's seat over here, and if he's able to go and scout this, that would be a huge win for Jigglypuff and Kowski.
Yeah, and that's something Ryo's got to be cognizant of. Not only, this is why 2v2s to me feel more difficult than 1v1s, because there's more variables on the map, just because there's more players. Good job by Ryo moving that knight over, because he's got to know if he leads them towards Crackety's base and he sees that stone mine could be an issue. Micro slipping just a little bit. Ryo's knight ends up going down. That's either number 2 or number 3 that we've seen go down. And when you talk about French players, especially in this mid-feudal kind of age, those are knights you just hate to lose.
Yeah, it's absolutely brutal, because that also means that Jigglypuff can kind of just sit back here and keep producing. And as you mentioned, his Roost counterpart has had a second TC for quite some time and is absolutely chilling at the current moment. And of course, because they're the Roost, if anything happens, they can just cash in some tickets, get some Kremlins. But we see staples coming out, so that means even more knights are on the map for Kowski and Co. And Cracky's going to have to get something. I'm assuming he's just going to be hanging back still. Still no barracks for either player, so no spearmen going to be coming in to kind of prevent this. But we do see some Shuganu out in the field to try just cause a little bit of harassment if the knights do come their way.
Yeah, Zugnu, one of my most hated units in Age of Empires 4, but the Kowski, his Rus, the only Rus player in the game, is doing a really good job in terms of what army he wants to make. He is making knights, and you're thinking, well, you know, he's got French as his teammate. Why is he making knights also? Well, if Crackety's making Zugnu, you just keep making as many knights as you want. Both players are going to make as many knights because you're going to need a metric ton of Zugnu to try to take down knights.
Yeah, it's not going to go well if you just have pure Zugnu dealing with that. And we have another raid coming over here. And as you can see, pretty much no damage is being done to these knights. So they have the +1 range armor. Not yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that very shortly. We don't have a blacksmith just. Oh, we do have blacksmith, but no +1. We actually have +1 attacks. They do they can snipe villagers quite easily. And now we have Roost Knights coming over here. So poor Ryo is having to deal with a full-on barrage. So hopefully Crackety can boom behind this and get up to Castle Age quite quickly and then come help him out.
Yeah, I think Castle Age is going to be the way for him. I mean, he's got 5 archery ranges that are now pumping out Zugnu very, very quickly, which is all fine and good. He's going for that metric ton strategy, which I can appreciate. If you do end up going to Castle, you could get crossbows, which could be a little bit more effective. But for Ryo, these next, probably I would say 2 to 3 minutes are crucial for him. As long as he can hold, stabilize without losing too many villagers, there is a way out for him into this game. It's just about if he's going to be able to do it.
Absolutely, but I mean, they are absolutely brutalizing poor Ryo right now. He is getting from every single angle, but now the Zugnu are here, so they're going to cause a little bit of poke damage. Is actually able to save every single one of those villagers, and his knights over here are able to push back the the Roost Knights, because obviously French knights are slightly better than the old Roost partnership. No healing going down over here, which means all that permanent damage on the Roost Knights, if once it gets over, it will be kind of counteracted. But Crackety has a ton of Zugnu.
Yeah, right now, I mean, you're highlighting them now. It's 22 storming the battlefield in the middle of the pit, or the crevasse section of the pit, that middle sacred site. He's looking to do some damage, maybe to Jiggly, maybe to Kowski. We might see where they end up going, but got to give credit to Ryo, because he had 2 different knight groups with villagers that he was trying to micro and trying to make sure his macro was okay to keep producing knights. And he was able to handle 2 of those knight groups without many casualties. So you got to give props to him.
Absolutely. I mean, he was able to make it out alive, which most of us would not have been successfully alive after that ordeal coming from Kowski and Jigglypuff. That was an absolute onslaught. And now Cracky's going to be able to move out and hopefully get a little bit of poke damage going forward. You can see, even just by the score numbers, that Crackety is absolutely feeling it. He's been completely left alone, so he is producing a ton of Shuganu. So we'll maybe see if he can get a little bit of damage done back end, so that way Ryo can kind of get back into this game.
Yeah, I'm really curious at the 12-minute mark how many villagers Crackety has, if you have the ability to show me. Our beloved observer is beyond. So hopefully, if you go to his on the top right,
yes.
And you change him here, hover over economy for me. 68 villagers at about the 12-minute mark. So he's doing pretty good. Now it's 69. Nice. But Kowski is in Castle Age. As you saw about the 12-minute mark, Roos is very good at that 2 TC castle build. Get there about 12 minutes. Hopefully, you might be able to get some Castle Age Knights to do damage against these Zugnu. But Jiggly might not have an answer to this right now.
No, it's hard to get an answer to 40 Shuganu this early on. Also, do not know why my brain just completely gave out there and realized I could just click on Crackety. So, for all of you screaming in the comments, I apologize ahead of time. But now we do see that the villagers are out open here, and Jigglypuff's villagers are not going to be able to run away from this one. Crackety has even more Shuganu coming over here, and I believe that these 5 will be sacrificed for the greater good, because unless they pull off an absolute miracle, I think it's going to be rough trades for them. But that being said, Jigglypuff is not going to be going down without a fight. And these knights, while they do find these villagers over here, they're going to be getting broadsided by this green night ball over here, and they're going to be trapped in this corner, but they can retreat to Crackety's massive range mass, which Jigglypuff smartly dips before that kind of happens.
Yeah, and you know, Jiggly was doing such a good job at maintaining pressure, especially in Feudal Age. That was the first civilian casualties that he pretty much had. And while going up to Castle Age, that food source was really all he had, that boar up there. French, it's very difficult to get a farm transition, so we'll see where he goes for food a little bit later. But Kowski on the other side, trying to get some raids on Crackety. Those knights are of the Castle Age variety, so they'll be able to withstand quite a few more Zugnu bolts.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be A-okay, but Crackety has so many Shuganu out on the map right now. It's actually insane. Just waiting for that upgrade. I'm sure Crackety's going to be going Castle Age quite soon. He must have all the resources for it, but he has been producing Shuganu at a constant clip. But I do think he needs to do a little bit more damage in the next few minutes to make it worth it for producing this many Shuganu and delaying his Castle Age by this much, because both Jiggly and Kowski are in the Castle Age.
Yeah, and at this point, I mean, you have one team that's in Castle Age, one team that's in Feudal Age. They're not going to be able to take a fight straight up. Right, and you see Jiggly does have the veteran Royal Knight. I'm not sure if he went for Institute or a Guild Hall, but regardless, those veteran Royal Knights are super good at taking them down. He did go with Royal Institute, is getting Royal Bloodlines, so we're going to see some pseudo Imperial Knights coming in our vicinity very soon. So Crackety, he has to stay alive. It's raids all over the place. I love watching French.
Yeah, this is insane. I'm trying to click as best as I possibly can, but we did see a high trade house back here. I'm not sure. I already clicked on it, so I'm not going to try to play the game. But a 178 is not too shabby for this thing hanging out back here for all that passive income. And we'll probably start to see all these relics start to be slowly plucked away from the map once one of the players starts to focus anything on raids. But Ryo is still having a tough time because there's now Castle Age Knights running through his base, and he's kind of low on food, and all of his villagers are over here collecting a few berries, but not that many.
Yeah, and I mean, even though, Jiggly coming in on the west side might be able to get some charges on Feudal Age Royal Knights, while his were a veteran Sav. That might be a fight they're okay with taking, and it looks like Jiggly turns around and wants to take this fight. You can see all of those bolts. They're all like paper cuts to Jiggly's high ranged armor knight, so he's just going to take this fight straight up. Now, as we see, the rest of the gaggle of Zugnu are going to be joining him, so good time to back up. Hopefully Kowski, his resources are probably of another level because of 2 town center plus with high trade house. Hopefully, if he can get some units on the battlefield right now, only has a population of 104. If he can get some units on the battlefield, they take a fight head to head, they're going to be in good shape.
I think these knights are done and dusted, but that's okay. I think they've done their job over here. But that is so many Shugnu. Still not age 3 yet. Now Crackety is finally here in Castle Age. I'm assuming, I was going to say, there's the Shugnu upgrade. So this is going to be quite the mass, and they have +2 range attack also finishing. So these are going to hit like an absolute truck. But that being said, I mean, both Jiggly and Kowski are doing a great job at the constant raids, and Crackety's army, while powerful, is very immobile. So the fact that he went all the way back home, looped all the way back around in that time frame, I don't think that either player really minded too much how long it actually took, because they weren't really getting pressured by this, and now they can go and raid again.
Yeah, the walls in the back for Crackety are really going to help. But here's something that's really annoying, is with all of these Zugnu just shooting arrows at this town center, it's going to go down to death by 1,000 or 2,000 paper cuts, no matter how much HP this town center has. And before I can even finish this sentence, look at that, it's rubble. How about it?
Can you imagine if you're that villager, though? You're just in there all alone. You probably hear 1,000 little needles coming at you constantly. Ooh. That is a terrible way to go down, but didn't take long for them to not be long with this world. We do see a nice raid over here from Kowski, though, getting a lot of good value. We see a lot of teal deaths going down, and Cracky is losing a ton of villagers, but is going to be pushing in. This is a nice engagement we can see over here. But these Kremlins are now popping out, and there's Mangonels. That's going to be a huge turning point. This Mangonel backline is going to be able to provide a lot of firepower that wasn't originally there. And Cracky is doing his best to kind of stagnate these Shuganu and kind of spread them out and get as much damage as possible. But these Castle Age French Knights are able to absorb an entire volley from this ranged mass. And the second they stop microing backwards, because he does have raids in his base, once these Mangonels catch up, this is going to be a juicy Mangonel shot if they can make a connection.
Yeah, you talked about the staggered formation, and I'm really glad you did, because when they're staggered like that and Crackety's backing up, and you can see most of the time he was A-moving, and he's still A-moving right now, he can't focus on one particular knight. When you can't focus on one particular knight, that huge Mangonel taking out about 9 or 10 Zugnu, most of them were dead and making a fertilizer in the ground as we speak. But with another raid, oh my god, Kowski on the north side, that Rus Knights coming in, taking down some of those yellow villagers from Ryo. So all signs are looking like Jigglypuff and Kowski right now. Villagers running all over the place for Crackety and Ryo. While Jiggly and Kowski, they're just running Knights in different directions, getting snipes.
Yeah, I mean, while Crackety does have a lot of villagers, 81 at the current moment, I mean, Kowski's also sitting on 66, but his villagers aren't idle and currently running away from Castle Age Knights. Ryo is still unfortunately in Feudal Age, so his Knights are just not going to be up to snuff, and as we say that, he's getting cornered over here. And now it looks like with the map control and how much mobility that Jigglypuff and Kowski have in their armies, we can see that Jigglypuff is kind of taking the map over a little bit, Take that middle gold vein. He's got another TC over here, just collect some extra food. So they're feeling pretty good about the situation right now. And all the meantime, they're just taking pot shots at the economy from their opponents.
Yeah, and I think for Ryo, it was all about idle time in that mid-feudal area. He only has 2 stables. It's not really feasible for him to produce consistently out of them. Jiggly has been able to. He was able to get some of those pocket food ecos. He did lose some villagers in the process, but he was able to get to that boar area, so could delay his farm transition. Now he goes with a second town center. He's going to put a decent amount of villagers on wood to get a good farm transition. Welkowski, his teammate, I'm telling you, this is why mobility kills.
Holding on by an absolute thread, and now the floodgates have opened. More and more of Ryo's villagers are going to be going down. And even if this is a trade for the knights, this is a fair trade every time. This is Castle Age versus Feudal Age, and then on top of that, Kowski has a much better economy than Ryo. So every time they make this trade, it's just going in their favor. Kowski is keeping on this pressure. He was able to kind of get up to this next level because of his teammates' pressure early on. So Jigglypuff and Kowski showing why they must play together all the time, and they're really balancing each other out well.
Yeah, and I think for both of these guys, it's about sustainability, right? Jiggly and Kowski, they're going to send knights wherever they want to. Crackety actually making army composition change to spearmen again. Those are on foot, so those royal knights are going to be able to outrun them. But talking about sustainability, they have their economy set up where if they lose some of those knights in raids, they can just keep making more of them. I don't think Ryo has the capability to do that.
Ryo's just getting absolutely dumpstered back here. I feel bad for the lad. He's getting targeted, which is, to be fair, this is exactly what you want to do in 2v2. If you know that someone is behind, keep the pressure on. You do not want to let their other opponent, who you didn't put behind, really start to outboom you. And then on top of that, every time, just keep it up. You know they're going to be expanding out. They're going to get more and more bold because they have to. And that's exactly when you want to do as much as you possibly can. Cracky's trying to expand out to the middle of the map, and Jigglypuff is having none of that.
No, he's got knights in all the right places, right? Taking down some of those outposts. There will be some spearmen from the north side trying to get those knights in the opposite direction. It looks like that they will. But take a look. Jiggly in 2v2s, knights as the French, this is what you make. Even if you're up against spearmen, that front line of knights is super, super good. Kowski on the other side might start to transition away from knights and start to go somewhere else. But actually, instead of just going for his own archers, maybe he's got about 20 to 25, he's just going straight siege, baby. He's ready to throw some rocks at him.
Absolutely. A little wall going down, and Crackety is able to get himself out of that one. But safe and sound, those knights are, and now these are getting in position, and the mangonels are on the way. I can see them slowly making their way in, and the first relic is collected out front, but I'm assuming there's a few more because I don't see any of them out on the map anymore. So let's see if we can find some relics. We have none over here, none over here. Does Cracky have any?
I know for Kowski on the south side of his base where the high trade house, there was a monastery there with it.
And there they all
and there
are.
You go. Yep, 4 relics. If you're a Roost player, they almost like them as much as the HRE. Some of those relics with warrior monks, they're just fantastic to get to supplement your gold economy. It just means less villagers you put on gold. More villagers you're putting on wood, which you're getting an increased economy boost on, and for food, which you get an increased economy boost on based on your bounty. So it makes your economy just super powered when you get the relics in the high trade house. It's a fantastic build Kowski's doing.
Absolutely. And honestly, I love the gentleman's agreement right now that's going on between both of these teams. There is no trade. We're just going to go for what resources are on the map, and that just makes it even better to wait and see. So they are just taking advantage of every single resource that this map has to offer. And they're starting to take advantage of the resources that the other side has to offer as well. Crackety hits Imperial Age, but at this point, he's going to be in for a really hard time to be able to hold off this constantly raiding knights, which are always back here. And then on top of that, he has to deal with this absolute monster of a Roost player.
Yeah, Kowski's got about 33 knights that he's moving on the eastern side. Crackety doing a good job holding his own base. You can see it based on the score and the fact that he's Imperial. He's doing a good job. He's holding his own. His population count is about maxed, which is fantastic for him. His teammate, however, sitting at about 2,000 score, has a population of 45 right now. So this is turning into a 1v2 situation.
Absolutely, and you never like to see that when you only have 4 military units, when you see a absolute herd of 33 Castle Age Knights, probably soon to be Imperial Age, if we're being honest, making their way towards your base, and your opponent, your partner, while has a great eco and military, it's a little bit more immobile than your opponent's side, so it's gonna be in for a really rough time. That is the defending force right there. That is the best defending force in the nation. But here we go. They're gonna be diving in, but sees those spearmen and wants to get out of there quite quickly.
Yeah, it's a good thing Krake came to help because Ryo had about 3 spears and a dream. He's trying to reboom. You can see that second town center by Ryo, and we know for French they make their villagers a little bit quicker. He just has to keep getting there. He's getting a decent amount of wood. Jiggly on the other side giving Krakety an own special version of hell right through those Chinese town centers and actually through those granaries as well. That's something that you really want to get to avoid if you're playing against Chinese. You don't want them to get to that granary transition, but when you have enough knights, you can just kill vills that get there.
Absolutely, and at this point, it's all about just the constant rage. Jigglypuff and Kowski just keeping the pedal on the metal, but I do respect this from Ryo. He was the one that was focused early on, is starting to get his farm transition as well, so if he can get back to a stabilized-ish economy, he could help to get this back, because once he gets his own knight mass up again, he might be sitting in a pretty good spot. Even if he's just supplying even more spearmen or X, Y, and Z, he could be in a good spot. But at this point, we have these archers that are moving in from Kowski that are going to be able to be killing this entire thing up front. We'll have to start to do a little bit of micro back and forth because these spearmen are effective if they eventually get on top of these archers. But we can see in the backhand side, we have a little bubble of just constant raids going for each side. This is a wonderful trade. There is the Imperial Age pop for Kowski, and this army is getting so much value, and now Jiggly is using that time to run around and get in onto the granaries.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the synchronicity of team games that mesmerize me, because it's very difficult for somebody like me to do, where the Archer mass was going up against Krakeny's main military mass, and there was raids going on. Spearmen were trying to chase Kowski's knights, which is all well and good. Jiggly moved all of his knights actually away from the archers. He's like, you're dealing with spearmen. I can't really help you anyway. So he moves up north, idles all of these granaries. Look at these rice paddies for Krakeny's Chinese dynasty. They're completely vacant.
This is absolutely brutal. There is raids going on everywhere. So now they've realized that as long as they can get into the economy of Krakety, they're going to be A-okay. They've done the math. They've seen what Ryo has over here, and it's not too terrifying. So they go, let's take on the big boss. Jigglypuff is trying to sneak his way back out. These knights will be going down for the cause. They tried their absolute best. They will be trading decently well because they are French knights. But at that point, they're also taking the sacred sites, going, you know what? Come out and meet us in the middle. See what happens.
Yeah, and this is the best thing about sacred sites is, I always say this in casts over and over and over again, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. They're just sending knights over there. Krakety and Ryo are never going to be able to try to decap one of these things because they're so focused on their own base. So if they can continue to raid, continue to take fights in the Chinese province, which is on the north side of the map, then they won't worry about decapping one of these sacred sites.
Krakety is making his way out, but that is the red palace he's walking into, so might want to try out the middle one. Once he realizes that this is here, he's probably going to fall back pretty quickly, but it's actually going to just run past it, so no worries at all. Sees it, goes, nope, not today, just going to run on past it, but that is 5 mangonels he's walking into. This could be absolutely brutal if they're on attack move. Kowski, get them into position and fire, and that is a brutal first hit. Now we have the knights following back in on the range units in the back. But this is actually a decent trade for Krakety, but now the mangonels have sectioned themselves off, and the knights are cleaning up all these range units. This is going to be a cleanup for Krakety. It looks like actually these French Age Imperial Knights are just too strong, and they're providing so much value. The mangonels do go down, but at what cost? Krakety's army is completely eliminated. We have more raids going in on the backhand side as well, and with their economies, they can just keep replacing these armies, and they're going to be back in no time.
Yeah, it's such a smooth transition for Jigglypuff when you go Royal Institute. I mean, obviously you lose some of the resources in Guildhall as this game goes into the 30th minute. You know, some might argue that the Guildhall is better, but you don't have to worry about getting royal bloodlines, because you already did. So once you get the Imperial Age upgrade, which doesn't take too long, they are super, super strong royal knights, the best knights in the game. So as long as he continues to make them and he continue to replenish them, he's going to be just fine.
So Crackety sees that his only chance is this middle of the map because he sees the red palace up top over there. But there's a lot of knights that are going to be able to just make their way back and forth quite easily through each way. And Kowski also has knights that can come help out if needed. We can see that the keeps are starting to go, the outposts starting to go up as well for Jigglypuff. And here is the rest of the forces. We have the golden hats on top of these archers, which will make quick work of any spearmen that they see. We have mangonels in tow and the stealth force, which are absolutely devastating. And honestly, even though this middle one is the most susceptible going down, I don't know if it's going to be able to be taken.
No, I mean, with all those outposts, it really helps. And hopefully a lot of those outposts do have emplacements on them. Seeing Rus elite archers isn't something you see every day. You talked about their golden helmets. I'm a Rus player, and I didn't even know those things had golden helmets. So just the fact that we're seeing them shows how important it is to have the counter for spearmen, because we know we're going to see royal knights right at a Jiggly's side. So even archers might be more cost effective than something like a Streltsy.
Absolutely. I mean, even when we play 2v2 Tim at the lowest of levels compared to these lads on the battlefield right now, we just go for that composition, which is like the front line and back line, and as long as both sides go for a little bit of both, you'll be sitting in a great spot. Jigglypuff is meeting some Imperial Age spears, which is never going to end well for these knights. Going to have to move out quite quickly, but if you can get those archers mixed into the mix, you're going to be chilling right now, and that's where the Rus player is just kind of taking care of them all. Cracky is trying to make their way over here to see if he can decap, but here comes the archers.
Yeah, those archers do have flaming arrows with them also, which is going to help them against some of the meteor targets like the palace guards. You can see them running away, and that sacred site will end up staying around for just another day. And I'm thinking right now, based on sacred site time, we're probably hovering in the 6-ish minute mark, counting all of the decaps. So again, time is running out for Crackety and Ryo, mostly Crackety, more so than Ryo. So he's got to get himself together, get himself population capped, and just steamroll, try to decap one of these games, because he's got to keep the game alive.
Absolutely, and you can just see that Jigglypuff is just essentially throwing knights at the problem, which is the French way to handle things. Is you have an issue, make knights, send them that way, and hope for the best, and it's working out absolutely exquisitely. So at this point, we can just see that now there's a keep going down in the middle sacred site. We have the red palace to protect the left-hand side, and now we just have this massive force from the Rus also protect this right-hand side, and I don't think they're going to be able to decap this anytime soon. The knights are just making a ruckus in the base, running these spearmen all around. And that's the major issue, honestly, with dealing with French players in team games, is they can just run you for the gambit.
Yeah, I mean, for these spearmen and palace guards, I don't know if they're soldiers or marathon runners at this point, because the only thing they're doing, they're trying to catch up to people on horseback, and they're not quite getting there. I mean, palace guards do have a decent movement speed, still not as much as a French Royal Knight, but might be able to catch them a little bit better than spearmen. Now, Ram's coming in for Kowski over here on the east side, might be able to take down one of those keeps. It looks like these masses for both Crackety and Ryo kind of conglomerating around the middle. There is a keep over here. There's another keep from Jiggly a little bit to the east of where that initial keep was. This is going to be a very, very difficult sacred site to cap.
Absolutely. We can see that Kowski is making his move to take out this keep on the right-hand side of the map. And yet, as you mentioned, there's two keeps, and the issue is while these spearmen do a great job into knights, they do not do a great job into diving just about anything. They are very susceptible to archers and to any arrow fire, so diving under two French keeps late game is going to be brutal for unarmored units. Look at how quickly they go down.
Yeah, and every spearman makes a difference, right? The villager gets garrisoned in the keep, so more and more spearmen will be going down. I saw boiling oil actually on one of those keeps as well, so that might be able to help him out just a little bit. But with a couple of keeps here, Jiggly confident enough to take this fight. Now, palace guards aren't going to do much of the DPS, but they will do a little bit of tanking. Hopefully some spearmen will be able to get in, try to take down some of those knights' nest of bees over there on the north side. Jiggly doing a good job having 3 or 4 knights over there just to pop that beehive before any of those knights get stung too hard. And beyond, that was a super easy cleanup for Jiggly. He made it look so easy.
I mean, absolutely. When you're fighting under 2 French keeps late game with the palace, with the red keep influence, not influence, but I believe they all get that upgrade once you get these bad boys. Yes, activates Arbitress emplacements on all keeps, which is absolutely insane. Hopefully they eventually tone that down just a scotch. We have Roos late game Rams coming in as well. And at this point, I mean, honestly, Tim, the best thing what I can say is that French Knights are a pretty good unit.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty good in any age. Knights are a pretty good idea to make if you're the French player. Now, in the back, as you're highlighting, both Kowski and Jigglypuff are trading. I'm not really 100% sure if Crackety and Ryo, have the ability to do that. There's a lot of elite archers and some Streltsy in there for a little bit of firepower, pun very much intended, and a siege advantage with those wandering town rams and some of those mangonels. Crackety trying to help him out just a little bit, but he is going to have a ranged mass. It's going to be very difficult for him to actually get any melee strikes on. We will see some archers go down. Mangonels, as long as they can get their rocks off, and they do, they're able to sweeten up a lot of those units in order to take them down. So Crackety does have enough units over there where it's going to make Kowski back up. Some archers and those mangonels are going to have to back up. But he did so much damage to Ryo at this point, where it's going to continue to be a 1v2 until those Sacred Site timers hit 0.
Yeah, which I'm assuming is going to be in the next minute or so. I don't know for sure because, of course, that does not have the ability in 2v2s, or maybe it is. Let me know in the comments if that is the case, if I'm just missing out on this magical button that shows me that timer, but I cannot find it. But all I see is that French Knights are just intercepting anyone that goes across there. We have more and more keeps and production now going down over here. Another keep going down up front. And this is the final frontier, and 2 keeps are being dropped down on this one. So I think it's going to be safe to say that it is almost in the bag for Jigglypuff and Kowski.
Yeah, that's all you got to do is shore it up. And Kowski's doing a good job of that, putting a couple keeps on the east side. The French player did have keeps. I should say Ryo, the secondary French player, did have a keep in that particular area. You can see that is reduced to Robo. Crackety just sending a little smattering of Vanguard forces that end up getting taken down. The keep is just doing way too much. Now, it's not exactly a French keep, doesn't have that Arbalest, but arrows are just as good, especially when dealing with Spearmen and Palace Guards, which might not have that high hit point of something like a Knight or a Horseman does. It looks like Ryo's trying to get it on the action, minute 37. As you can see on the right-hand side, if you saw it blink out really quickly, there is 1 minute left. And Crackety says, I don't want to wait that minute, he's done.
And there we go. Crackety taps out. What a game. Honestly, Jigglypuff and Kowski put on a clinic on how to play a 2v2. That was a bit of magic.
Yeah, they did a really good job working together. They kind of knew what each other's game plan is, and this is something that is not surprising to me. These are 2 players that play really frequently together, so they're going to have the ability to kind of read each other's minds. There's a little bit of a telepathy going on, and that's when you have a really, really good teammate, and those guys, man, they make a great team.
Absolutely. Well, if you did enjoy, please do like and subscribe. Didn't even mention that the whole time, so a last minute shout out. And also, if you do enjoy Tim's commentary / just wonderful personality, go follow him on Twitch. He's been streaming a ton these days, so go check him out for sure. And I'll leave that link in the description below. Hope you guys have a great night.